All right, guys. John the Sports Dad here, and I was watching the documentary about Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell earlier, and in that documentary they talk about how Chuck didn't have a dad. He was raised by his grandfather, and and when he was when he was 7 months old, no, not even 7. When his mom was 7 months pregnant, his father tried to shoot his mom so that it would, in hopes that it would kill Chuck because he viewed him as a mistake. Well, somehow she decided to stay with him, and she a few years goes by. Chuck is now 3, and his dad is starting to become abusive to him, and so she gets up, she leaves, and he never knew his dad. He never, when you're 3, you don't remember that time. He never remembered his dad, and of course in the documentary they talk about that. They bring light to it. They bring his mom on, and he's on there saying something along the lines of, I had an address. We had the same address for 25 years. I lived in the same house for 25 years, and you never came to see me, because there was a fight. There was a fight that he went to, and his dad showed up and was like, "Hey, I'm your dad," and he wanted to get a relationship with him now. And he's like, "What? You now? You weren't there for me." And while he's saying this, you can just his lip quivers a little bit. His eyes are tearing up. And this is Chuck Liddell. This is one of the toughest people that's ever lived. But that relationship, talking about it, of the trauma that he has from his childhood between his dad, it was hard for him to speak on it. And you can try as you might, if you haven't dealt with these things. If you haven't dealt with this trauma, you can try as you might, but you will never get a muscle big enough, and you will never throw a hard enough punch to beat that monkey off your back. And if you allow it, the pain from that will cripple you worse than any injury could ever do. You see, the message that you're sending a young boy when something like this happens is that he is not good enough. And sometimes, not in all instances, but sometimes, even if they are showered with love by their family members, there is still a void, a dad-shaped hole in their soul that can't be filled by anybody else. And that hole in their mind will render them inadequate and unlovable in their mind, which is a pain that I would never wish on my worst enemy. And in some instances it can last the rest of their lives. And there is a solution for this. We have it. We've obtained it. And it's not a universal solution. It's not a medicine that you can take. But the problem is that not everybody's willing to take this medicine. And throw it at them as much as you want, but not everybody is going to take this medicine and go and seek the help. And at some point in their life, and it may have never been something that they verbally said out loud, but at some point in their life, they decided that they would never be vulnerable. And a lot of times, especially, this is usually the case behind a tough guy persona, is that exact thing. They decided that they would never be fun. They would rather physically fight, mostly mentally, but sometimes they would rather physically fight as opposed to being vulnerable. And they would rather fight than admit that this trauma is going to follow them around like their own shadow. And they would rather spend the rest of their lives breaking down only in privacy, only on their own, instead of just allowing anybody to understand just exactly how sad they are. And so guys, just please talk about these things. That song that you listen to that makes you cry every time you hear it is sending you a message. It's sending your brain a signal that you need to talk about this. And that feeling you get after you cry, that moment of happiness is a signal to your brain that you can get past this. That this hump can be overcame, this hill, this mountain can be trudged, this path can be blazed, and you can get through this. Because it isn't your fault. It's not your fault. You were just a little boy or a little girl. That wasn't your fault. But it is for damn sure your responsibility to your loved ones and to yourself to find out who you are. Because trauma does not give a shit how strong you are, physically or mentally. Because there is so much more to you than this. There is so much goddamn more to you than this. And once that weight is off your shoulders, you'll take a look around and just see how beautiful life really is. You just need a little bit of encouragement. Which is something I wish this world did a little bit more of. And you'll realize how much more you have to offer your friends, your family, and most importantly, yourself. And I know that we all have different stories, but one thing I do know is that we all understand feelings. Almost every one of us has felt helplessness. We felt depression. We felt anguish, sadness. And sometimes we've even felt hatred for that coward that didn't love you when you were just a little boy. A scared little boy that didn't understand why you didn't love him. And when that little boy's tough skin turned into a hard shell, the world looked at him in a way that never made him quite feel comfortable. An impenetrable shell. And obviously not all of you will identify with this. But the feelings that we have are universal. We have all felt them. And you deserve to be happy. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be fulfilled. So please reach out. Reach out. Just like a lifeguard throws you a life preserve, you have to be the one to reach out and grab it. He can't grab it for you. He's not going to put his life in risk for you. You have to do that. You have to reach out and grab it. But if you reach out to the wrong person, you can't give up. You can't. Because mental health is important. You're important. And I know that this is so much easier said than done, but there are literally millions of people that are willing to help you. But you can't wait around for someone to save you. Not this time. I can walk beside you, but this path can only be cleared by you. So please get the help you need. It's going to be the hardest thing that you have ever done. But once the clouds have cleared and you start chasing fulfillment, then and only then will you know your true potential. And I just want you to know that I love you. And then if nobody else has told you today that they're proud of you, I am proud of you. Nobody knows the path that you've walked but you. And we see the world through our eyes. And we see the world how we view ourselves. And what I want you to do is I want you to go out there and make your world a life worth living. Because the world will become a world worth living in when that happens. And I love you. Later, guys.